The school turned against the CEO's twin daughters, until the cleaning lady revealed the truth that silenced all. At an elite school marked by pressure, appearances, and the influence of the powerful, two innocent young girls see their lives turned upside down after being accused of a crime they didn't commit. The weight of public humiliation, hallways filled with phones recording, and the threat of expulsion transform the place into a silent courtroom where everyone has judged before hearing the truth. It's in this setting that Maya appears, a staff member almost invisible to most, yet able to notice details no one else sees. While influential parents and lawyers try to silence any voice of resistance, she begins to connect the dots that could unravel a cruel scheme. What at first seemed like a common injustice soon reveals itself to be part of something much bigger. And every step of this revelation promises to change not only the fate of the twins, but also the hearts of everyone involved. Before we begin this emotional story, I'd like to extend a special invitation. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how far our stories can reach. And if you enjoy intense love stories full of twists and life lessons, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any new content and will help this space grow even more. Now, get ready. Because what you're about to watch is the kind of plot that stays with you, both in memory and in your heart. The electronic bell at Westridge Preparatory had rung just minutes ago, and the auditorium, set up for practice exams, was silent. Only the light sound of two wheelchair wheels cutting down the aisle before the test began. Chloe Whitmore adjusted her pastel hoodie over her legs, took a deep breath, and squeezed her sister's hand. Sophie, in a varsity jacket and a determined expression, responded with a quick smile, her sports headband catching the overhead white light. On the stage, proctors were collecting cell phones in sealed envelopes. At the back, the American flag hung still, as if it too was holding its breath. The door opened with a sharp snap. Principal Margaret Steele stepped between the rows, platinum blonde hair in a precise cut, navy blue suit aligned like a sentence. Her gray gaze swept the room, and the temperature seemed to drop a degree. She stopped in front of the proctor's table, picked up the microphone, and said, in that low, cutting voice everyone knew, "Chloe and Sophie Whitmore are expelled. Academic fraud will not be tolerated." Silence shattered like glass. A whisper ran through the auditorium, then a wave of held breaths, chairs scraping, hands discreetly searching empty pockets where phones used to be. The proctors tried to contain it, but too late. In the hallway, students were already filming on their own devices, arms raised above the crowd. One phone camera shook as it zoomed in on the twins. Chloe, her very blue eyes wide with shock. Sophie lifting her chin like someone facing an unfair finish line. Sophie was the first to speak, her voice wounded and firm. "This is a mistake." "We didn't," Margaret cut her off, monotone. "The envelope with the answers was found in your locker. The rules are clear." Chloe swallowed hard. "Our locker wasn't like that yesterday. Someone tampered with it." The principal kept her marble face. "Any discussions will be handled by the board. Now, please follow security." The side door opened again, and Andrew Whitmore entered like a gust of wind. Tall, navy blue minimalist suit, neatly trimmed short beard. He looked like he had stepped out of an important meeting and into a nightmare. His blue-gray eyes met his daughter's, and for a moment, the CEO posture gave way to the father. "You're destroying their lives without real evidence," he said, his voice trembling as he struggled to stay composed. "I want to see that envelope, and I want to see the hallway footage." Margaret didn't blink. "Protocol will be followed, Mr. Whitmore." Andrew stepped forward. My protocol is the truth. A murmur rippled through the room. Students standing, parents already notified by messages, teachers trying to calm things down. The hallway outside had become a funnel of people and opinions, some outraged, others curious, a few eager for a trending moment. The word expelled was already on everyone's lips, somehow, even before it was written. On the edge of the storm, Maya Coleman watched in silence, leaning against her impeccably organized maintenance cart. Warm brown skin, neatly fitted dark blue uniform, 4B hair in twists tied back with a discreet ribbon. She moved with the calm of someone who knows every bolt in the school. Her honey brown eyes scanned the corridor like a seasoned scanner. That's when she saw it. The lock on locker 3B looked recently changed, the metal still unscratched, the alignment slightly off from the others. And above, in the corner of the wall, the small dome camera with a red sticker that read, "Out of service." Maya narrowed her eyes. The barely visible internal LED was giving off a faint light that didn't match a supposedly dead device. She approached the locker, walking past two whispering students. "They say they found the envelope in there. Are you sure it was them? The principal doesn't make mistakes." Maya crouched slowly, noticing a fine metal dust near the baseboard, like shavings. She touched it lightly with her finger and realized the dust was still fresh, not yet covered by the usual hallway grime. She stood up and looked again at the camera. If it was really broken, why did it still seem to have a power flow? Andrew arrived at the same row of lockers with a security guard behind him, his face a mix of disbelief and contained anger. Chloe and Sophie, side by side in their chairs, formed a heartbreaking image, holding hands, one trying to lend the other courage. Chloe whispered, "Dad, we didn't do anything." Sophie, breathing slightly faster, added, "Someone wants to see us fall." Margaret appeared just behind them, accompanied by two board members. "Mr. Whitmore, I ask that you maintain composure." Andrew took a deep breath, neck veins tense. "Show the hallway footage. Now." One of the board members cleared his throat. Unfortunately, the camera in Wing B was broken this morning. Maya took half a step forward, polite but firm. "Excuse me, but last night I saw that camera light up, and today the LED is still faintly blinking." The guard frowned. "Ma'am, please return to your duties." Andrew turned to Maya, surprised by the calm courage in her voice. "What's your name?" "Maya Coleman," she replied without lowering her gaze. "I'm on the night maintenance crew. I know the service calls. That lock was recently changed. The alignment is off." Margaret gave a cold smile. Technical observations from non-certified staff are not part of the process. Maya stood firm. But they can be part of the truth. A murmur ran through the hallway like electricity. Some students pointed their phones at Maya. Others focused on the principal. Andrew saw a crack in the wall and pushed through it. "If Mrs. Coleman has technical knowledge of the building, I demand her observation be recorded. At the very least," the principal replied coldly. "It will be noted. Now, please clear the way." Chloe raised her voice, braver than she looked. "We didn't cheat. I left a note for a classmate who's being bullied. That's it." Sophie held her sister's hand, staring at the principal. "If someone put an envelope in our locker, that person knew the camera was broken." Margaret pressed her lips together, measured irritation. "That's enough. The board will deliberate. Until then, please leave." The crowd parted, but not in silence. Comments clashed in the air. "Everyone knows they're top of the class. Big deal. Elites cheat too. I'm sure the principal has proof. And that cleaning lady? Brave. The hallways, with their ramps and model accessibility signs, now felt like a chessboard where pieces were being moved by invisible hands. Maya, back at the cart, committed every detail to memory. The texture of the metal dust, the shine of the new screw, the stubborn LED in the corner of the dome. She also took note of something harder to describe: the energy of the place, the micro-expressions, the way two board members avoided eye contact when the word camera came up. She took a deep breath. Her job was to clean, yes, but also to see, and there was far too much not to be seen. Andrew passed by her while following his daughters, calmer than he had been minutes ago, like someone who finds a thread in a dark room. He glanced quickly at the camera, then at the lock, then at Maya. "Thank you," he said, simply, almost in a whisper only integrity could recognize. She nodded, serene. As the group turned the corner, a student raised their phone to record another story. The hallway, the honor code posters on the wall, Sophie's sporty wheelchair, Chloe's pastel hoodie, the stern principal in the background. In seconds, it would blow up online. But right there, before any hashtag, a silent truth was already burning. The scene didn't add up. And in that moment, the hallway stopped being just a passageway and became a courtroom. The two wheelchairs became the banner of a fight no one understood yet, but everyone felt. Something unjust had happened, and someone, somewhere, had bet no one would notice. But Maya had. The hallway was still buzzing when the twins were escorted out, accompanied by their father. It only took minutes for the first videos to pop up on social media. On TikTok, a cruel edit was already circulating. Shaky clips of Margaret Steele announcing the expulsion, overlaid with red letter captions, "Elite Cheaters." The distorted audio made it sound like Chloe was confessing to something she never said. On Instagram, student accounts reposted the clip with shock emojis, and on Twitter, Josh Westridge was trending. In the parking lot, local journalists had already surrounded the gates. Reporters with raised microphones were asking if it was true the twins had been caught in a $1 million cheating scheme. Influential parents, tied to major donors, were pressuring in group chats, demanding the school be exemplary in its punishment. The Whitmore name, once associated with excellence and philanthropy, was now being tied to the word fraud. Andrew gripped his phone, his hand trembling from restrained anger. The screen lit up with a call from his company's legal department. He answered, trying to stay composed. "Andrew, we need to be objective. The situation is going viral. The board's recommendation is clear. Protect your image. If necessary, distance yourself from the girls." The man who used to lead boardrooms took a deep breath, but his voice broke as he replied, "Are you suggesting I abandon my daughters?" On the other end, the dry voice insisted, "We're suggesting you save your career. Think rationally." Andrew hung up without a word. His blue-gray eyes reflected not just anger, but fear. He knew reputations were fragile, but he wouldn't pay that price with his family's blood. In the car, the twins stared out the window, still in shock. Chloe cried silently. Sophie bit her lip, turning pain into fury. Maya Coleman watched from a distance, leaning on the cleaning cart that now felt like a fortress of dignity. She saw Andrew walking fast, pressured by reporters, parents, and suspicious looks. Then she gathered her courage and stepped forward, her voice calm and steady, cut through the chaos. That camera wasn't broken, Someone disabled it via software. Andrew stopped. The weight of all the accusations, the collapse of his career and his daughter's pain seemed to crack in that instant. He turned to Maya, surprised by the certainty in every word. She didn't look away, honey brown eyes against blue-gray. Two worlds that were never meant to cross, but now stood face to face with the same injustice. He tried to recover his voice. "Are you sure about what you're saying?" Maya didn't hesitate. "I know this building better than anyone here. I saw the LED last night. I saw the lock was changed. This wasn't an accident. It was planned." Andrew closed his eyes for a second, as if looking for relief. When he opened them, he didn't just see an employee. He saw someone bold enough to challenge the official version. And that courage cracked the armor he'd built over years of boardrooms and tough negotiations. Principal Margaret Steele appeared in the background, surrounded by board members, maintaining the cold posture of someone who already believes they've won. Andrew and Maya exchanged a final silent look. Something had been born in that moment. A pact of trust, perhaps more. But both knew this truth came with a price. As the red lights of TV cameras reflected off the twins' car windows, Andrew understood. If Maya was right, this wasn't just about evidence or expulsion. It was about power, and someone powerful had orchestrated his daughter's downfall. Midnight in Brentwood arrived quietly, but inside West Ridge Preparatory the air still felt heavy with the weight of the previous day's scandal. The emergency lights lit empty hallways, reflecting off the polished floors. To many, the building was asleep. To Maya Coleman, it was not. She walked alone, pushing her maintenance cart, eyes alert to every detail others ignored. She knew where the floor creaked, where lights flickered, where sensors blinked out of rhythm. She knew the school like a living map. In the silence, only the echo of her soft steps and the distant hum of an air conditioner broke the night. Passing by the boys' locker room, Maya bent down to pick up what looked like an access card, abandoned near the side door. The plastic glinted under the dim light. Holding it, she saw the timestamp of last use, EUL420. Too late for any regular employee. Too early for any student. She froze for a second, her heart racing. That piece of plastic could be nothing. Or it could be the proof that would clear Chloe and Sophie Whitmore. As she stood up, she heard a short, mocking laugh behind her. An older man from the night maintenance crew stood watching, arms crossed. "You just clean floors, Amaya." "Don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong," he said, with the tone of someone trying to reduce her to invisibility. Maya took a deep breath, not replying right away. Her gaze stayed firm, more eloquent than words. She carefully tucked the card into the inner pocket of her uniform like someone protecting a fragile treasure. Then she lifted her chin, projecting dignity. Integrity doesn't depend on your job title. The man shrugged, muttered something inaudible, and walked away. But Maya didn't waver. She felt her conviction growing inside her. In that moment, she realized she was carrying something bigger than physical evidence. She carried the responsibility of seeing what no one wanted to see. She left the locker room and returned to the main corridor. Her honey-brown eyes scanned every detail. The security camera blinking faintly. The cables hidden behind the power panel. The slightly misaligned door to the tech access. Small signs, almost invisible. But to her, they screamed a story different from the official one. Maya knew she was stepping into a dangerous game. The powerful had resources, influence, and fear on their side. She had only her memory, her courage, and now, that card. She held the pocket where it was stored and whispered to herself, "They're not going to bury the truth." Outside, the early morning wind gently shook the school flag, a nearly poetic detail. While the city slept, the invisible woman had just found the key that could bring giants down. The next morning dawned even heavier than the one before. The scandal was no longer limited to the halls of West Ridge. Now it was in the palm of the whole city's hand. On Twitter, screenshots of supposed WhatsApp messages spread like wildfire. In the images, Chloe and Sophie Whitmore appeared to be coordinating early access to the exams. The comments were cruel, dripping with irony and disdain. In private donor and parent groups, messages full of mocking emojis labeled the twins as elite cheaters, while some laughed at the hypocrisy of the Whitmore family. But something didn't add up. Maya Coleman received copies of those screenshots from a student who respected her and wanted to help. She studied every detail carefully. The time zones in the messages didn't match California's standard. Some characters didn't match the font normally used in the app. Tiny details, almost invisible to everyone else. But to her, they flashed like warning lights in the dark. Later, in the side courtyard where few dared to go, Maya found Chloe alone. The young girl's eyes were red from crying. Her pastel hoodie looked heavier than ever on her fragile shoulders. Her hands trembled in her lap, gripping her powered-off phone like it was responsible for all her torment. "Chloe," Maya said softly, kneeling down to her level. "Those messages aren't real. There are flaws in the files. I know what I'm seeing." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to hold back her tears, but failed. Her voice came out broken. "I was there yesterday. Just to leave a note in a classmate's locker. She was being humiliated, and I wanted her to know she wasn't alone. That's all it was, Maya. Just that. But they used it against me." Maya gently touched her hand, offering strength. What was born from compassion had been twisted into a weapon. "This isn't just injustice, Chloe. This is cruelty." The girl's blue eyes filled with more tears. "Everyone believes we cheated. The messages are everywhere. What'll be left of us when this is over?" Maya kept her voice calm, but inside, her heart was burning. "What'll be left is the truth, and I won't let it die buried under lies." As they spoke, two students lurked at the end of the hallway, secretly taking photos, ready to spread new gossip. The school was no longer a place of learning. It had become a cruel spectacle. Public humiliation had turned into entertainment. Maya lifted her gaze and fixed her eyes on the open sky beyond the windows. She felt the pieces falling into place. The discarded access card, the changed lock, the broken camera, and now, the manipulated messages. All of it had been coldly calculated, not just to incriminate, but to destroy. She stood slowly, and her voice carried like a silent vow of war. This wasn't just a setup. It was a planned cruelty, and whoever did this is going to be exposed. Still crying, Chloe looked at Maya as if she were the last thread of hope. That night, Maya Coleman spread out on the maintenance room table the records she'd managed to gather. Her hands, steady despite the weight of responsibility, handled technical service logs, access reports, and notes scribbled on small papers during her quiet rounds. To many, they were just numbers and times. To her, they were the gears of a clock, revealing the truth. 412, she murmured, marking with her pencil. Lock change registered in the system. Who did that at that time, without authorization? She slid the paper aside, lining it up with another piece of information. 4:15, she continued, eyes locked on the old monitor displaying the camera logs. Here it is. The supposed system crash. It wasn't a malfunction. It was a shutdown. 4:20, she added, raising a printed internal request. A cleaning request. Out of schedule and right in the locker wing. She took a deep breath and placed her fingers on the table. 3 movements in sequence, precisely timed, all before dawn, all before the twins were even awake. Andrew Whitmore, who had arrived after insisting on seeing what Maya had uncovered, paced the room, his broad shoulders tense under his light shirt. He stared at the papers like they were dynamite about to blow. This is more than enough. "I'm going to the press right now," he exclaimed, his voice full of indignation and desperation. Maya looked up, firm, unfazed by his fury. "Andrew, if you rush to the press with this, they'll bury the evidence. They'll say you manipulated everything, and then nothing can be proven." He froze, his blue-gray eyes burning like embers. "You want me to just stand by while they destroy my daughters?" Maya stepped forward, her poised stance a contrast to her simple uniform. "I don't want you to stand by. I want you to fight the right way. Chain of custody, Hanapum. Andrew, if we don't protect that, the truth dies before it's even born." He clenched his fists, breathing deeply. For a moment, silence reigned, broken only by the distant sound of a motion alarm in the neighboring wing. Andrew stepped closer to the table, staring at the records again, as if trying to draw strength from those timestamps. "And the card you found?" he asked, calmer now. Maya pulled the worn plastic from her pocket. "The ID matches an assistant on the basketball team. That connects the cleaning request to the lock change and the camera shutdown." Andrew ran a hand down his face, as if his mind were calculating risk and damage. "They're messing with money, with power. This comes from the top, Maya. It's not just some kid playing basketball." She held his gaze. "Then we go all the way, but precisely. It's not enough to prove it, Andrew. We have to crush the lie with surgical precision." He took a deep breath, and for the first time, the rage in his eyes gave way to something closer to hope. Maya had turned chaos into strategy, and now, every second of the night was one step closer to the truth. The modern auditorium at West Ridge Preparatory was packed. The cushioned chairs, the stage with cold lighting, and the school crest projected on the screen gave the meeting the feel of a courtroom. Influential parents, teachers, and board members whispered among themselves while students watched from the back, some secretly live-streaming on their phones. The atmosphere was one of spectacle and public judgment. At the center of the main table, Margaret Steele maintained her rigid posture. The precise cut of her platinum hair, the navy blue suit, and the controlled tone of her voice radiated authority. "We are here to discuss the future of academic integrity. The situation is serious. The evidence is clear." One of the attorneys representing a donor family stood and pointed toward Maya Coleman, who stood calmly in her spotless dark blue uniform. His tone dripped with irony. "Madam Chair, with all due respect, we're wasting time listening to, well, someone who knows nothing about technology. She's just a cleaning lady." Stifled laughter spread through the auditorium. Some mothers raised their eyebrows in approval. A father recorded everything, eager for a controversial clip to post. Chloe and Sophie, in their wheelchairs, shrank under the cruelty. Chloe lowered her eyes in shame, while Sophie bit her lip, trying to contain her anger. Andrew Whitmore, seated in the front row, couldn't take it. His blue-gray eyes sparked with outrage. He stood with the authority of someone used to being in charge. But this time, he spoke as a father. His voice cut through the air like a blade. My family trusts her more than anyone in this room. Maya saw what you refused to see. Silence fell instantly. His words shattered the chain of laughter and turned every gaze to Maya. Margaret Steele tried to regain control, her voice firm. "Mr. Whitmore, control yourself. This hearing follows clear rules. We will not accept deviations or dramatics." Maya took a deep breath. Her heart raced, but her stance remained steady. She stepped forward, pulling from her simple bag a clear folder with printouts and log captures. Her voice, calm but firm, echoed through the microphone. "Here are the power records that prove the manual shutdown of the camera. And here, the system access logs showing who used the card at 4:20. I officially submitted these documents." Parents and students leaned forward in their seats. Surprised, several raised their phones to record. The lawyer tried to interrupt. "This is inadmissible. That woman doesn't have a technical degree to validate any of this." Maya didn't back down. "You don't need a diploma to recognize the truth. You need courage." A murmur rippled through the audience. The phones that were recording began to stream live. Within minutes, the hashtag "John will let them speak" was gaining traction, climbing on social media. That moment, once limited to the auditorium, was now public, immortalized in videos that escaped the school's control. Margaret realized she was losing ground. She tried to end it, slamming her folder on the table. "This meeting is adjourned." But it was too late. Voices echoed. Phones captured every second, and the image of Maya, simple in her uniform, holding up evidence before smirking lawyers, was already becoming a symbol. The invisible woman had made her voice louder than the silence imposed by the powerful. The heavy silence of the auditorium was broken by the sharp sound of the projector turning on. On the giant screen appeared the list of records Maya had submitted. Lines of timestamps and codes filled the space, but to her, they read like a map. The audience leaned forward, eager to understand. At 4:15, Maya said firmly, "The surveillance system was manually shut down." It wasn't a technical failure. It was a deliberate access. The tech board advisor cleared his throat, trying to hide his nervousness. It might have been human error. Andrew, seated just behind Maya, raised his voice, sharp and cold. Human error. Or a well-calculated order. Eyes around the room widened as Maya enlarged the screen and highlighted the name of a staff profile. This access was made by the IT intern, the same one who reported directly to the administration. Murmurs swelled like contained thunder. Margaret Steele adjusted the necklace around her neck, her voice faltering for the first time. "It must have been a misunderstanding. Nothing we can't correct internally." Before she could finish, Maya pulled the access card from her pocket, the one she had guarded so carefully. She held it up to the sea of phone cameras now recording everything. And this card? It was used at 4:20. The ID matches a basketball team assistant. But the logs show the card was borrowed. By whom? The students' screens buzzed almost simultaneously. Sloan, the daughter of one of the school's top donors, had just posted a story. The video showed her laughing, surrounded by friends, and the cruel caption shimmered on the screen. They didn't even know how to cheat right. A shockwave rippled through the auditorium. Chloe closed her eyes in pain. Sophie gripped the rims of her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles turned white. Parents stood, some outraged, others trying to leave before the scandal splashed onto them. Andrew stood up, staring Margaret down with controlled fury. "Explain this, Margaret. Explain it to everyone watching." The principal, once so steady, now stammered. "They're young. Sometimes they don't realize. It might have been careless behavior." But no one believed her anymore. The masks had fallen. The farce no longer fit within excuses. Hours later, in the nearly empty parking lot, Andrew walked beside Maya. The tension of the day still lingered in the air. He stopped, looking at her intensely. "If you hadn't seen what no one else wanted to, my daughters would be destroyed right now." Maya took a deep breath, her honey-colored eyes reflecting the yellow glow of the street lamp. "I didn't do it just for them. I did it because it was the right thing. Someone had to believe in them." Andrew stepped a bit closer. His breath brushed her face. For a moment, the world felt suspended. Two different worlds on the verge of touching, connected by truth and courage. But Maya looked away, breaking the moment. "It's not over yet, and we need to stay strong." Andrew nodded slowly, offering a pained half-smile. "You're right, but you have no idea how much I want it to be over." Between them hung the silence of an inevitable attraction. The truth was about to explode, and so was the flame building between them. The next day dawned with TV cameras camped outside West Ridge's gates. The case was no longer just a topic among parents and students. It had taken over the whole city. In the center of the school, a makeshift room was set up for Maya Coleman's official testimony. The room was cold, with glass walls and lawyers in tailored suits. But Maya, in her simple dark blue uniform, walked in tall, composed, carrying more than evidence. She carried conscience. The lead attorney cleared his throat, trying to assert authority. "Miss Coleman, know that you're protected under federal whistleblower laws, but also understand that certain truths can destroy careers and reputations. It's in everyone's best interest that this matter be resolved discreetly." A folder slid across the table. Inside, a check worth enough to change any working person's life. Maya kept her gaze steady, not touching the envelope. Andrew Whitmore, seated beside her, leaned forward, his voice cutting. "We don't trade truth for a check. You can't buy my family's dignity or her courage." The silence that followed spoke louder than any legal argument. Maya then spoke clearly. "Truth is not for sale, and I won't be part of a system that punishes the innocent to protect the powerful." The investigation moved forward. An independent forensic team was brought in, away from the school's influence. The report came back in a few days, and it hit like a bomb. The WhatsApp screenshots being circulated were fake. Tampered metadata, inconsistent code lines, clear evidence of forgery. It had all been part of a premeditated trap. When the results went public, the pressure exploded. Students live-streamed every update, and the community demanded answers. Finally, in front of cameras and microphones, Sloan, the donor's daughter, was called to testify. Her face, once smug in her stories, was now pale. Her voice trembled, broken by tears. "It was just supposed to scare them. I didn't think it would go this far." The crowd reacted with outrage. Chloe and Sophie watched in silence, their hands entwined, feeling that justice was finally getting closer. But social media showed no mercy. Videos of Sloan laughing at the twins, once shared like trophies, were now reposted with captions of disgust. Memes spread, turning the hoax into a nationwide joke. In the auditorium, Andrew took a deep breath, looking at Maya with gratitude and respect. "They tried to destroy us, But the truth survived because you didn't stay silent. Maya remained composed, but inside, the weight was lifting. What had once been quiet courage now became a revolution. The lie was undone. And under the watchful eyes of the world, there was no more hiding. The weight of injustice finally began to lift. In an extraordinary assembly, the West Ridge Board stood before the press and school community to announce, after reviewing the evidence and an independent investigation, the expulsion of Chloe and Sophie Whitmore is officially revoked. On behalf of this institution, we offer a public apology to the family and the community. The words echoed. But what truly stood out was Margaret Steele's uncomfortable silence. The principal, once seemingly unshakable, simply adjusted her suit jacket and quietly signed her resignation letter. No speech, no applause. She walked out the side door, leaving behind a legacy built on fear. That same day, digital banners in the school's halls announced new integrity and accessibility protocols. Cameras would be audited. Locks would be controlled with transparent logs. Internal reports would finally receive real protection. For the first time, the community seemed willing to learn from its failure. But real healing didn't come from paperwork or policies. It came from reconnection. That weekend, Andrew invited Maya to leave Los Angeles for a few hours. He drove her to Santa Monica, where the sunset painted the ocean in orange and gold. A gentle breeze stirred Maya's twists, and the restaurant lights began to glow along the pier. Sitting on a wooden bench near the water, Andrew stared at her. It wasn't the calculating look of a CEO used to negotiating, but the gaze of a man who'd learned how to lower his guard. "You saw what everyone else ignored," he said, his voice low and full of emotion. "I want to learn to see the world through your eyes." Maya looked away for a second, shy. But inside, her heart was racing. That powerful man wasn't speaking with arrogance, but with vulnerability. And that vulnerability was what brought them closer. Andrew gently touched her hand. The gesture was simple, but full of meaning. Maya took a deep breath, letting the silence linger for a few seconds. Then, finally, she leaned in. The kiss happened under the soft evening light, sealing not just the end of a battle, but the beginning of something new. It wasn't just love. It was respect turned into affection. Months had passed since the scandal that nearly destroyed West Ridge's reputation. The school, once known for its rigidity, was slowly transforming into a more human space. The same hallways that once echoed with cruel laughter and hasty judgments now hosted new projects, new faces, and a new way of seeing education. In the auditorium, Chloe and Sophie Whitmore were called to the stage during a student assembly. The twins, now stronger, led the launch of a groundbreaking inclusion and support program for students with disabilities. Chloe, calm and reflective, spoke into the mic. "No one should be defined by their limitations or by false accusations. We want West Ridge to be a place where every voice is heard and every talent matters." Sophie, more energetic, followed up, raising her voice with conviction. "Our pain won't be in vain. We turned it into action. And we invite all of you to walk with us." The audience stood and applauded. Parents and students, once divided, now recognized the bravery of two teenagers who had become symbols of resilience. On that same stage, the hiring of Maya Coleman as the school's integrity supervisor was announced. She walked up to the podium with her usual calm presence. Her simple uniform now replaced with elegant but understated clothing, a reflection not just of a new position, but of earned recognition. Maya looked around and said, in a firm voice, "Justice begins when we choose to see what's right in front of us. Integrity isn't a title, it's an action." At the back of the auditorium, Andrew Whitmore watched with emotion in his eyes. The man who had once been driven by the instinct to protect his image had changed. Now, he had learned to listen before reacting, to trust before attacking. After the ceremony, he approached his daughters and embraced them with pride. "You taught me to be stronger in a different way," he said. His voice choked with emotion. The words Maya had spoken months earlier, in the face of a co-worker's scorn, had become a motto repeated by students in the halls. Integrity doesn't depend on your job. It depends on your courage. And so, the woman who was once invisible silenced the school, not with shouting, but with evidence, with steadiness, and with love. More than that, she taught everyone that true justice doesn't come from power, but from the courage of those who refuse to stay silent in the face of lies. And that brings us to the end of this story, one of courage, justice, and transformation. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story? Drop your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and let me know how much you enjoyed it. If this story touched your heart, give this video a like, share it with someone special, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And before you go, I've picked out another emotional story that's sure to move you even more. Don't miss it.